Well then, what the fuck? Assassin's Creed Shadows has been delayed again, this time to March 20th, just 1 month more. Now this is pretty strange because everything seemed like it was releasing on February 14th. I mean, the Parkour article that came out a few days ago stated it's releasing February 14th, and these articles are written not long before their release. It seemed to be going fine, and then boom, all of a sudden delayed. Now, I'm not sure if this was a decision made literally on the spot, because it doesn't really add up, but hey, I'm not going to overreact and say this is a negative, but instead, I don't really mind the delay again, and there's plenty of reasons for that. But first, let's talk about what Ubisoft said about it. They put out a statement saying that the delay is about delivering a more polished, high quality experience. So over the last few months, they've been gathering feedback from players through gameplay overviews that I've covered on the channel, but they feel like they needed more time to work on that feedback and give us what they're calling a quote-unquote ambitious and engaging day one experience. And honestly, can you imagine if this game had dropped last November like it was supposed to? It probably, and I'm pretty sure it would have been a very buggy mess. Think Unity or Cyberpunk level bad, especially considering the literal developers of the game wanted more time for it, hence the original delay. But I do get why people would be mad at this second delay. Maybe you took time off work or saved up money for this, and now it's pushed back again. That frustration is 100% justified. I mean, if I didn't make videos on this goddamn franchise, then I'd be pissed off too. That said, I would not recommend reading any replies on the official Assassin's Creed Twitter account because oh boy, it's a goddamn war zone over there. Here's the thing though, Assassin's Creed Shadows isn't a cheap low budget game. Ubisoft has spent a fortune on this, and considering they're basically holding on for dear life as a company right now, they cannot afford to mess this up. I mean, just look at the recent combat, stealth and parkour clips from the article. We can all see with our very own eyes that this recent gameplay looked very polished and smooth. So it is clear that compared to the shit show that they showed to us last year in summer and compared to now, it's a big difference. So yeah, it sucks to wait, but if it means a better game at launch, I'm all for it. And I think everybody else that was going to play the game originally should be too. And also, the delay ties into a more wider strategy from Ubisoft. So according to a press release that they dropped today, along with this delay, they're making some pretty big changes within the company. This includes cost-cutting measures, studio closures, and even discontinuing projects. They recently cancelled X-Defiant and even shut down 3 production studios in high-cost regions. On top of that, their holiday sales were lower than expected, especially for Star Wars Outlaws, which by the way, can I just say, why would you make a game that nobody asked for? That's terrible business practice in my opinion. I'm not saying they shouldn't be making new games, but you know, make games that are appealing. With all due respect to Star Wars Outlaws, it would have been a much better game if it was, you know, let's say, The Mandalorian. So with all this press release, Ubisoft is clearly trying to focus on what works, and Assassin's Creed Shadows seems to be one of their key priorities, especially considering Assassin's Creed is a flagship franchise and one of the biggest in gaming history hands down. In a recent investor call, Ubisoft shared that they brought in a team of quote-unquote leading advisors to help figure out what their next steps are as a company. According to CEO Yves Guillemot, who if you're wondering what my thoughts are with that man by the way, just take a look at this tweet. That right there sums up this man. Anyway, he mentioned how this is all about reshaping the group to focus on making better games and running things more efficiently. They didn't really share much about who these advisors are or what they're exactly working on, but you know, it sounds like Ubisoft is trying to set themselves up for a stronger future if they ever have one. There are also rumors floating around about a possible buyout from Tencent, which has been a talking point for a while, but he did not confirm or deny anything when he was asked about it in the investor call. The fact that they brought in outside advisors definitely makes it seem like something big could be in the works. And after the release of Shadows, I can definitely see some big changes happening. So with all this in mind, it makes sense that they'd want to, you know, take their time with Shadows. They cannot really afford to have a major release flop, especially with so much riding on the success of their upcoming games. Now of course, for those that despise Assassin's Creed Shadows for whatever reasons they have, they'll be laughing at this of course, and that's expected. But if you have more than one brain cell, then you would realize how this delay is a massive positive. A lot of people will be watching very closely to see if this game can live up to the hype, and understandably so. Now, I want to go over some more reasons as to why this is a positive and not a negative. You know, when we talk about messy game launches, Cyberpunk 2077 often comes to mind as one of the worst in recent memory. Of course, now it's a masterpiece and probably a top 3 game of all time, in my opinion. But what should have been one of the most hyped games of the decade at launch turned into a PR disaster with buggy gameplay, broken features, and a complete mess of an experience. In fact, it got so bad that Sony pulled the game from PlayStation's store, which I'm pretty sure was a move that's almost unheard of. Ubisoft needs to take a hard look at that situation and make sure Assassin's Creed Shadows does not fall into the same trap. A botched launch like Cyberpunk 2077 could, in my opinion, be the final nail in the coffin for Ubisoft, especially with everything riding on Shadows and Shadows alone. For Ubisoft, the big thing here is making sure quality comes first. They can't afford to release Shadows feeling rushed or half-baked. The game needs to properly be tested on all platforms, especially since we've all seen how bad optimization can completely ruin a game for players. Assassin's Creed Shadows can't just be another example of that, but let's be real, Ubisoft's reputation has already taken a lot of hits over the years, and they don't have much goodwill left to burn. If they mess this one up, then oh boy, it's going to be a disaster for them. Now let's talk about why Assassin's Creed Shadows being delayed to March 20th might actually be a blessing in disguise, especially when you look at what's coming out in February. That month is absolutely stacked with big releases like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and even Monster Hunter Wilds. Both of these games have huge fan bases in their own regard, and trying to compete with them could have basically overshadowed Shadows, even though some may disagree because of how massive AC is in general. But let's be honest, Monster Hunter Wilds would probably take the spotlight more than Kingdom Come 2, but both games are worth mentioning. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 follows up on a beloved niche game that was a surprise hit. The first one sold 8 million copies over 7 years, which is impressive, even if a lot of these sales came from recent massive discounts and the hype surrounding the sequel. And then there is Monster Hunter Wilds, which is the next big entry in the Monster Hunter series. Now these games have die-hard fans who sink hundreds of hours into them, and so does Assassin's Creed to be fair. But competing with them would have been pretty bad for Shadows. So pushing the game to March, Ubisoft is giving it some breathing room. The game won't have to fight for the attention in such a packed month, and somebody like me won't feel overwhelmed trying to keep up with so many big releases. Actually, what even comes out in March? There's nothing of note, just Split Faction, which I'll be honest, I won't be playing anyway, so March is the month for Shadows. Actually, I just realized, oh my god, imagine a Ghost of Yotei trailer or pre-orders for that game releases in March. Oh boy, I'll be honest, if that happens, Assassin's Creed Shadows will be cooked. Because all bias aside, Ghost of Yotei will most likely be a better game than Shadows. Anyway, honestly, I'm pretty happy about the delay, because now I'll actually have time to enjoy these games properly. On top of all of that, I've got my eyes on Yakuza Pirates in Hawaii, which is also releasing in February. If you've been watching any of my videos, then you know how hyped I've been for that game. I've mentioned it so many times. So yeah, with Shadows out of the February lineup, I can give games like Kingdom Come 2, Monster Hunter Wilds and Yakuza Pirates the attention they deserve, without feeling like I have to rush through them. I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. There's nothing worse than having so many amazing games drop all at once and not being able to fully enjoy any of them. So while the delay might sting a bit, I do think it's actually a good thing for both the game and players that were originally intending to buy the game. Now the last thing I want to touch on has to do with the marketing for Shadows. If you've been paying attention to the game, you'd know that the marketing has been terrible since the original delay from November to February happened, and it got a lot of people wondering if there's going to be a second delay, and well, you guys who predicted that was spot on. But what's pretty strange is that Tom Henderson even said that the Shadows team received their marketing plans after Christmas, so this delay was definitely a last minute thing. But in terms of marketing, this now gives the marketing team a lot more time to finally produce marketing, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they do deliver on that. I'm sure a lot of us were wondering how they'd fit an exploration article, a story trailer, previews, a launch trailer, and even pre-orders all within 30 something days. And now we know, they couldn't. So an extra month, which now comes up to 71 days until release, should give them more time. If they still cannot deliver with marketing in 71 days and there is another delay, then I'll be honest, this game will then be dead on arrival if there's a third delay. All hype for this game would be dead in the water, and other big games will have been released and will be released soon. So yeah, Ubisoft, I'll be honest, this is your last chance at survival as a company. There are millions of Assassin's Creed fans that are waiting for this game to release. You have talented developers. It's just the executives and higher ups fucking everything up. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I'm not going to give an outro for this video as it's not a video for that. So peace out.